Hello, and thank you for joining me for the third and final part of the overcoming challenges in striving to be a conscious parent and have a conscious pregnancy. I'm Crystal of the Baby Guru. The third challenge that we're looking to overcome today is the challenge of birth. I don't call it a challenge because it's really a challenge, but because planning for it is something that can cause a lot of people a lot of stress and anxiety. And part of the goal of conscious pregnancy is alleviating that stress and that anxiety by becoming aware and prepared and also doing the steps to achieve mindfulness. So with birth planning, there's sometimes a lot of fear, and we acknowledge the fear. We want to acknowledge that the fear is there, and we want to acknowledge that the possibility for complication does exist. However, it's not something that we're going to focus on. So fear is okay, but we're going to work on alleviating it by knowing what our options are and making a plan accordingly. There are 4 steps that I recommend when you're looking to make a birth plan, and I'll share those with you today. The first one is really, really basic, and that is to decide who's coming. Who is your provider? Are you comfortable with them or their associates coming in? Do you want students coming into your labor to observe? Having the right provider is very important, as is choosing your birth team, your support partner. Knowing whether to have friends and family come with you. It's really important to decide ahead of time who's going to be coming in the room, who's welcome at the hospital, and who you'd like to wait until you get home. Now, the second step in birth planning for me is to think about the really big things. So, what kind of birth are you looking for? What is important to you during the birthing process? Is allowing your baby to have all of their blood after delivery really important? If yes, then you would need to talk about delaying cord clamping with your provider. It's a lot of big topics, have information that's out there that show that these things are very beneficial, but a lot of this research is very new, and some really important aspects of birth that many people believe are important are not well known and not well accepted in the world of obstetricians. So it's important to know if you want to be induced or if you want to wait for a medical reason to be induced, and then what those reasons might be. So the big ideas of whether or not you want an epidural, whether or not you want your child to be in the room with you after they are born, the big things need to be decided first. And after that, you can start getting down to your little preferences. Now, birth never goes according to plan. So your preferences are really things that you would like to see happen, but you're not completely committed to. You want to be careful when thinking about these things, knowing that in the course of your birth, the plans may have to change, and you could end up with a procedure that you never thought would be necessary in your birth, but in the moment, it became the right choice. I know that I experienced this myself with my second daughter. I had had a child with an epidural previously and was induced, and I never wanted to have another epidural. However, after 7 hours, I was so exhausted that I caved to an epidural. Oh my goodness, it was so terrible. It really wasn't, because it allowed me to get the rest and the relaxation that I truly needed in order to be able to push out my baby 45 minutes later. It ended up being a wonderful experience. It was a very healing birth after my first experience, and it drove me to become a doula and help other people achieve their version of the best birth for them. So the third part is planning for all of those preferences. Now, the last part of actually planning your birth is going to sound scary, but it's planning for the worst. Now, we all know that things like maternal mortality are real and they are a problem in today's society. It's been shown that the United States has almost a 30% maternal death rate, which is way too high. It is scary how high that is. But it comes down to having this evidence-based care and having a plan for when things start to go awry. Now, it's important to know what conditions are qualified as being necessary to induce. It's also very necessary to know to plan for what could possibly happen if you were to require a C-section or to have a placental abruption and become unconscious. These things, while scary, are important to face. We really have to face them and come to terms with knowing that we've made our absolute best preparations that we can, so that if these situations were ever to come to pass, our children, our families, and ultimately in the end, after we've recovered, hopefully, ourselves will be able to move on knowing that we did our best. Part of that is all in the realm of the consciousness, of accepting the responsibility of bringing this force into the world, knowing that there's always a possibility that something could go wrong, but believing in the power of our womanhood, our bodies, our collective consciousness, and our sisterhood with other women who are going through this now and have gone through this before. All of that put together, we believe, brings the hope, the joy, the love back into the world so that these things don't happen to us. And if they do, we know where we're headed. And there's no trauma from being thrown into an unexpected situation. So, as I've said, birth planning is very, very important. It's important to know ahead of time what you are comfortable with and what you simply are not. Having this security of knowing will give you peace during the process as you recognize the process. The process of how your body goes from being this home for your child to delivering its power and bringing that life into the world. So I hope you've enjoyed our 3 challenges, and I hope that maybe you'll consider joining our program. We discuss all of this in greater detail, and I will create a birth plan unique to you and your situation within the program if you choose to join us. Thank you very much.